Testing one, two, go. Okay. Hello. Welcome to the Language You Can Wear Part 2, or an extension of the language that you can wear. I'm still stuck on the same question from my last project, and that's, is fashion actually a language? Not just a way of speaking, but a real deal language. And the more I think about that, the more I'm thinking that it is. Clothes can 100% talk. They can be a form of protest, they can send signals, they can lie, and they can tell stories. And sometimes they totally miss the mark and don't say the things that you want them to say. And that's why I wanted to use this project to dig in, check out what other people have said about fashion and language. And if fashion really does speak, who's calling the shots on what it means? So I'm going to talk about clothes as a silent protest. Let's go back all the way to the 1800s in Hungary. There was this fashion magazine called Novolog, which means Women's World. On the surface, it was printing fashion reports from France and Belgium, but it was also doing something way, way cooler. Judith Kerpix writes about how the magazine turned clothing into politics. Hungarian writers, they started using traditional dress like it was code. And they couldn't just write, revolution without the cops shutting them down, but they could sport a jacket or hat that showed solidarity. And that reminded me of the Raf Simons shirt that I have from the Autumn-Winter 2017 collection that says, "Any way out of this nightmare," which was created as a signal of the political fear that was going around America in 2017 from the president at the time. And the Hungarian styles hit me that it's not at all different from a protest tee that we have today. If someone wears a shirt that says "I can't breathe," then it's not just material, it's a public shout. Same thing with the hoodie that says "F racism." You don't have to say a word because the shirt says it for you. It's like what Andalusia called invoked art. It pulls people in as a collective witness. And what happened in Hungary shows us that this is nothing new. Fashion is always there as a backup language when words get tricky. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the simulation problem. But then there is the flip side. Fashion as hyperreality. So the next two authors I'm going to mention have very, very long Russian last names. They are very beautiful, but seriously very difficult to pronounce. So I'm going to reference their first names, Segida and Zivile. Hopefully I am pronouncing those correctly. They take Baudrillard's idea and they apply it to fashion. And their argument is that fashion messes with reality and what's fake to the point where you can't tell them apart anymore. I see that big time when I look at current streetwear. Vetmonts, they make a fake bootleg tee, they sell it for hundreds of dollars, and then they call it anti-capitalist. It's ironic. But is it actually protest if you're cashing in on the very thing you're trying to mock? Is that language, or is it just noise? Baudrillard would say the message got lost. We're not copying shirts anymore, we're copying illusions. And one thing I'd chip in about Vetmonts is that they'd had recently lost a court case in America because they tried to copyright their name. But they lost the court case because their name was too simple. Vetmonts just means clothing in French. So now they can't really get a trademark or a copyright on their name. So I could just go online, make my own Vetmonts and sell it, I guess. Yeah, that's a tad scary, and seeing as it makes me wonder if fashion's language can even be understood. Or maybe we're okay with being fooled. Maybe we've been chilling in the cave for too long to get out. fashion has a grammar too. I then took a look at Marina Ryabova, who talks about what she calls paragraphic expressiveness, which is basically punctuation, fonts, layout, and boldness. And she's saying that the visual stuff on clothes can carry meaning with it, and it's not there just for looks. And I agree. That clicked on what I was trying to say in my last paper, that fashion has grammar. The font on a hoodie is kind of like tone of voice. Gothic letters that say "love suffocates you" in all caps make it sound like it's straight out of a diary or a sermon at church. But if you write the same sentence in Comic Sans, all of a sudden it's a joke. The same exact words, but a totally different feel. Also, logos basically do the same thing. The Nike swoosh is like a period at the end of a sentence with what they're saying. Just do it. End of story. That tiny little curve can carry more weight than a whole paragraph at times. And that right there is grammar, even if it doesn't outright look like it. Then we have the marketing of morality. Language isn't just a blank slate. Alla Belova shows that sustainable fashion uses words like conscious, green, vegan, and circular. They give off the impression that they're ethical and almost pure. She points out that sustainable is also one of the most used words now. Sustainable this, sustainable that, eco-friendly this. It's like a copy and paste. I hear it everywhere. And that's something that I think about often when I see, eco slapped on products. The word itself does all the work. It tricks us into thinking that buying something is the same thing as giving a crap, which is not always the case. Sometimes it's all for show. The language is way cleaner than the materials used. And this is where fashion speech feels super, super manipulative. And it's convincing you that you're a part of a movement when you're actually just buying into it. Animals can be used as vocabulary. And Belova also wrote about fashion that takes inspiration from animals, like leopard prints, snake boots, fake lion heads, and minks on the runway. And what she's saying is that animals are more than just materials, they are symbols. And that's when I started seeing animals as fashion's alphabet. Snake print is low-key signaling danger. A dove print is like it's saying peace. We see that everywhere, and even like biblical references. The dove symbolizes the Holy Spirit, which gives the believers peace. And then faux fur is used to scream luxury, but now it can hint that you're empathetic if it's fake, which is just crazy to me, because it's like they want the real thing so bad. The meaning of the same word morphs depending on the context, and that's basically slang. That's what code switching is, and it's not just a decoration. It's a metaphor. A handbag with crocodile texture isn't a real crocodile. It's the feeling of being tough, of being exotic, of, styling it as an accessory. And animals are like syllables in the language of fashion. And then we have luxury brands writing our identities. I then browsed through Kirsten Kors, who did an analysis of Chanel and Gucci. She makes the point that they're not pushing materials, they're pushing identities. This is according to her. Chanel teaches you how to be timeless, confident, and refined for the low price of hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Gucci is all about being wild, over the top, a spectacle. These ads don't say, cop this jacket. They're saying, buy this version of yourself. And if I'm paying that much money, I'd hope they'd say something like that. That's intense, given that it turns fashion into way more than just a way of communication. It's a way to write your own autobiography. And when you rock Chanel, you're writing yourself into a story of refinement. When you rock Gucci, then as Coors observes, you're writing yourself into chaos and rebellion. It's not just about what you rock, it's who you become in that moment. And fashion is straight up schooling us on how to narrate our lives. And then we have the fragility of fashion as language. So where does this all leave me? On one hand, fashion has all the makings of a language. It has history. It can be a form of protest. It has grammar, metaphors. Even the advertisements act out like storytelling. But at the same time, it's fragile. The fake stuff can twist its meaning. Greenwashing ends up messing with its words. And luxury ads twist being yourself into a performance you can drop money on. To be fair, language itself has the same pitfalls. Slang gets turned into a moneymaker. Protest slogans end up being sold at Urban Outfitters. Words get stripped out of their meaning all the time. Though, that doesn't stop people from constantly thinking of new ways to speak and express themselves. Every other week I'll see a fashion piece and I'm like, wow, why didn't I think of that? It just keeps growing. That's like every time I see a new quote, it's language. And, if I rock a hoodie that says F racism, it's as if I'm yelling without making noise, a single noise. And when somebody scores a vintage t-shirt with a washed out band logo, it brings to mind, are they being nostalgic, ironic, or are they just trying to save some money on some clothing? And I think location can definitely vary on that point of view. If I was in Beverly Hills, I would assume that, that t-shirt was probably old, it's vintage, but it was probably a very expensive t-shirt. But they can all have completely different meanings. So, yeah. And that's just how language operates. It's a little muddy, it's jumbled, but it's something that's up for interpretation, which is what I find to be super cool. So I land back on my first question. If fashion speaks, are we even listening? Or are we too deep down the rabbit hole of buying the look of having meaning instead of seeing it for what it truly is? No matter what, fashion will keep speaking through Hungarian jackets, through eco buzzwords, through swooshes, through bogus lion heads, through hoodies that are like a form of protest. It's messy, it's fragile, but at the end of the day, it's still a language. Something that we can rock, something that we can misread, but it's something that we can never fully silence. Thank you very much. I had a lot of fun making